In the Matrix indeed. It's your man, Pooh Nanners, coming to you live from Houston, Texas. That's right, your Texas caster and hype master, Pooh Nanners. And joined, as always, by Sleepy. Sleepy's got an intro of his own.
Yeah, I'm Sleepy. I'm your West Coast caster and game master for the Onward Master League.
Spicy, I like it. So tell us what was happening, man. How good was casting this week?
It was really good. I came back myself after a week of not doing as many casts. I was doing a little birthday celebration. So I'm back in the saddle now, and we're raring up. And just finishing up week 11. So getting close to the end of the season now. So it's exciting.
Yes. We'll get into how the end is going to come later, but we're going to get you into what happened, guys. Those of you who watch the show. A special shout out to Buxton doing all the write-ups, pulling all the clips for us today. We've got plenty, not nearly as crazy as last time because we had so much button cup stuff, but still quite a lot. And as you can see, it is nade heavy. And we love our nades. We need some more Molotov, those guys. So pro players, get those Molotovs and get them out for us. So we had the Beginners versus Lemon Squad, a game that anybody who pays attention would have expected to be much of a blowout. Wasn't too bad. It still broke Beginner's way, as you would expect. But then you had a strange downfall strategy coming in from the other guys that ended up breaking the other way. Downfall ended up working 2-4, I think, for Lemon Squad, correct?
Yeah, Lemon Squad ended up taking that one 2-4, and everyone was surprised. Beginner is a very strong team on that map, so to see them fall to Lemon Squad like that was very surprising for any of the people who are familiar with the Beginners and how they play. They love them some downfall.
The world champions are bleeding. First the Button Cup, now this. No, I'm just kidding. They still ended up winning, but downfall, we didn't expect that. I mean, that's where they're dangerous. But I think people are starting to step up their game on downfall, especially with people getting really precision with those grenades. And I think we're going to see a couple of the precise plays on downfall in these clips. So knock it up.
So in the first clip, you'll see here Caltrop, who is coincidentally named Sextropter here. He is going to have a pretty cheeky-breaky spot, and bang! He's going to get a nice bolt action kill on Kensai as he makes a push for the southwest side of the downfall map. And that's just kind of the start to the Beginner's downfall here on Downfall, matter of fact. Then the next clip here, you've got Smoils there coming out of the stairwell. He's on that second floor balcony. He's going to make a 1v3 attempt. He's going to catch out one. The defending team, they're going to hear that, going to quickly kind of check and scope out, make sure they're not going to get picked as they push out. And then here he comes. He's coming around the corner. And bang, Smoils finds two. And it's looking really good for Beginners here. Smoils has created himself a nice little hole there to be utilized. The last defender is going to be rotating out. And as the camera moves... Yeah, police ball there for Lemon Squad. Going to find the right angle just as Smoils leaves the center bazaar, and then bang.
So close to saving that one, to clutching it out, but it did not work. On to the next one.
Yeah, the next one, I believe this was map 2. Yes, it was. Bazaar. We're going to see Beginners getting a cap in just under a minute on this South Central or South Humvee objective. They're going to make a pretty coordinated quick push. And now this is very unusual for Beginners. Beginners not typically a fast and furious play style. They usually play pretty slow and methodically. So to see this was pretty amazing. And then now here we go. We have Dr. Killinger. He's on the objective. He's got his tablet out. We're coming up on the minute mark. And here he goes. Beep, boop, bop, beep, beep, bop, boop. And there's the cap, and he takes it with just over a minute taken off the clock. So great play there from Beginners, and very, very anti-beginner style as well. Here in the next clip,
never play fast.
Yeah, no, typically never. Yeah, you never see them move this fast. Now here, we see the score lines 3-1. You got Beginners crashing in on the objective. You got 3 men coming in. You got 3 men on the objective. Now 3 offensive members, 2 of them with tablets out, increasing their chances of successfully getting this cap. And then unfortunately, the last Volk defender comes crashing down, but it is too late. Beginners take the cap, and they take the map 5-1, turning things around nicely after that first round loss on Downfall.
It's too little too late. Nothing like 3 guys sitting on the point when you're the only guy left. And you're probably halfway across the map, so you're just booking it down there so you can either kill them or they get you. And he just got there too late. Oh, man. But that's Beginners. I mean, if you think about it, we're talking about this one time, all of a sudden they're playing faster. Well, you're so used to them playing slow. I imagine if they all of a sudden just started playing fast when you're not paying attention to it, they could catch you with your pants down.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I would be stuck with my jaw on the floor if that were us in that map against them. Because I mean, it's just like it's completely polar opposite of how beginners play. It's just it's very surprising to have seen that come from beginners.
Yeah, you'd be like, we didn't train for this.
Yeah, this was not in the handout.
I was promised slow play.
Yeah.
Well, not to be outdone by that match, Animal House went up against the Legionnaires, and that was a fairly close match, as we had predicted before, and we were talking about. That was the match that we wanted to see. Animal House, though, we're going to slightly edge them out in a favorite going in, and apparently they didn't disappoint. Had some serious plays in Suburbia, and we got ourselves a few clips that Buxton put together for us, so let's set this up.
Yeah, so in this one, Silent Knight's going to go on a bit of a tear. He throws a nice grenade over one of the houses in the northern side. He's going to rotate around quick, very aggressive, kind of not really recommended by most playstyles. Now, you see that friendly grenade. Yeah, that friendly grenade bounces over, and he almost gets picked there.
And he got a guy through the fence, right?
Yeah, right there in the kind of the top center of your screen, that guy that's down right there, he actually shot him through the fence as he was trying to get one of the guys on the other side of the picnic table. So he ends up picking up 3 there. And
I'm sure that first kill that he got on the other side of the fence, he's like, wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, most players know that you can get killed by penetration at that fence.
But he didn't know he was there, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I don't think he knew that Silent was there. I mean, Silent made a hard push, so nobody would have really expected him there, per se. But the fact that Silent did kind of come through. And
if you catch that first nade was using the roof to hold it up in the air and get that air blast. And we're going to see another one of those later on, right?
Yeah, it's actually coming up right here, and this is actually within the same round, so some great grenades, some great plays coming out from Animal House here, and this is going to be just this long-range grenade. Here you come. You see it coming over the middle, and bang! It's going to catch out the guy there in the back closest to the house. That's Honey Half. He was there as a reservist filling in for Legionnaires, and that grenade is going to come out and just and take him out. I mean, and there was no clue that he was even there. Now in this next clip, we're kind of running them quickly for you. We're going to see another quick cap here as Animal House pushes up to the objective. This time they are attacking and not defending. So as you'll see here, the camera's going to come up on Steven, and as he has his tablet out, he's pushing for the objective, but he hears the guy on the porch. And if you look at the kill feed, it is actually Kitten Mittens that kills the guy on the porch as well as Steven, allowing for Animal House here to get this cap, and they're going to take the map here 4-2 off of this cap.
Hey, whatever it takes, right?
Whatever it takes, and if the enemy team's going to help you out like that, you might as well take that too, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes Steven's just in the way too, you know. Those guys have fun. We're actually working on a video with them. We were able to reach out to them and ask them to help us out. Just like we've been asking a lot of the other players, kind of throw stuff together for us. Animal House is going to have something for us in the next episode, so look forward to that. But moving on, Beginners got to play against Boss Fight. Radar's team, still one-sided as anyone would expect it, with Beginners dominating their former rivals. Now, back in the day, these guys used to be rivals before Beginners really pulled way ahead. What happened, do you think?
I really don't know what to say about that. I'd have to kind of talk to the guys on the Beginners more. I think it really just came from the fact that they got tired of losing, because Beginners actually used to get smoked by Boss Fight, and they'll admit that. Boss Fight used to give them a real hard time. And the Beginners just really started to commit and put in the time, and then made some roster changes, picked up a few players here and there. Of course, now they got the Woods brothers together, because the Woods brothers, I believe one of them actually used to play on Boss Fight, and he left Boss Fight to come over to Beginners, where he's now playing with his brother. And it's been working out well for Beginners. They're both picking up lots of frags, but Boss Fight kind of losing its luster just a bit. I mean, they're still one of the top teams, and they still deserve the credit, because they do play very well still. But Beginners just putting in that Globo time, if you will, that 20, 30 hours a week type thing, prepping for games.
Right, yeah. It's all about how much time you put into a game. Like any pro player will tell you that. The more time you put in the game, the better you're going to be than the competition. That's why, like, when new games are coming out and you think they're going to be pro games, you want to get in on that beta before anybody else. So that if you
Right.
keep putting in the time, you'll still have more time than anyone else putting into it. And speaking of the beginners, Woods Brothers turned out to be a really good pickup for them. Those guys continue to perform, scary guys to watch play. And when you meet them in person, the intimidation and scariness follows with them. Like they're just like, I got this like cold killer. They were just running like this meta game of intimidation, I think, all through OC5. Because when you meet them, it's like, it's the Wood Brothers. Everybody's like quietly talking about that. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, they're both good guys, though. I met
They got a rep.
Woods 43, which is, I believe, the younger of the two brothers, at one of the Leicester events in the UK a few months back. And we talked for quite a while because we're both veterans, so we both done our service in our respective countries. And he was a really great guy. We sat down, we talked for a while, and then when I saw him at OC5, he came up, he's like, hey, what's up, Sleepy? You know, shook hands, little one-armed hug type deal. So it's great. I think the intimidation thing is just kind of, I don't know if it's that or if it's more of like a social defense mechanism. Maybe they're just not as social as some of the other guys.
I felt like what it was is like, you know, they were there at the game and like people already like the beginners were wanting that money and so were like Globo. So everybody's kind of playing mind games a little bit, also trying to convince, which was pretty easy with Sickness, trying to convince him and his group to just overdo it the night before. Everybody was playing that match. It's like, oh no, let's stay out drinking. Y'all stay out drinking. And then like Arsenic would just sneak off to bed.
Yeah, well, you can see it if you've ever been to any of the LAN events that Globo or the beginners have gone to. They're both very serious. When it's time to get to work, you can see it. I remember the first time I saw Globo at the LAN event in the UK. I saw them walk into the studio, and I'm like, wow, these guys, like, you could see it on their faces. They are focused. They are ready to play. So, and the beginners were that way as well. I mean, when I saw them that weekend, there were a lot of times where they would go off on their own and have little strategy sessions at the hotel. And, you know, they would politely ask if anyone who was not on their team would just kind of leave the area so that they could go over what they were doing. And I mean, yeah, so both teams putting in that work, but, you know, boss fight, nothing to be scoffed at. They are a great team. They did make it to OC5 after all. They just didn't have their best day against beginners this time around. So,
speaking of those top teams, though, Globochem side note, I saw that they played in the Echo Combat Discord Cup, and they did not perform so well. I noticed that the people who performed really well were the people that not necessarily had good aim, but it was that they had much better movement mechanic because they had more experience with Echo Arena. And that's why I was telling a lot of the Onward guys who wanted to get into it, as like you need at least one Echo guy to teach you to move. I even volunteered to teach the Echo guys on how to move. If you abuse your movement in that game, you become next to impossible to hit. You combine your ability to move with your ability to shoot and strategize, and you'll destroy. But the problem is that you don't have to be able to be a better shot if people can't shoot you. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just get in close and shotgun them. So that's why I said it's necessary to develop that mechanic first. Make it hard to be shot. Then develop your strategy from that point of view, and you'll be unstoppable.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I know a lot of the...
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say one last bit. I was going to say, yeah, there's a few of the Onward Master League teams who are looking to branch out into other games with VR esports potential. I know a few of us have been dabbling around in Population 1, which is looking to be a possible VR esports title. You know, some of our guys, as you mentioned, Globochem, other teams looking to get into Echo Combat, as well as Space Junkies, if that ends up having a VR esports following. So yeah, I mean, even Vox Machina, we were trying to see what the potential was that for like. So a lot of teams have sent out kind of like feelers. Like myself, I went out into some of these communities, was kind of feeling around, seeing what the interest was like in these communities, and just kind of testing the waters to see what could possibly be another VR esports title for us to focus on in the future.
Well, yeah, it's definitely one to see which games you like, which ones you think are going to draw the community. There's still also the games that'll be fun to play. Like I think War Dust, despite all its problems, is just going to be the game that we all want to go to just to goof around. Seems like more of that kind of game, especially because it's just a much larger number of people. So it has that old school feel of like Battlefield or Halo or UT2K4, where it was just, you know, large space, lots of people. You can't possibly stack the team with enough good people to make it unfair because there's just so many people. So, I mean, that's going to be the one where people hang out. But definitely, I think Population 1 and Echo Combat are your front runners for the big money esports games. But lots of new players in esports are coming up. So who knows what games they're gonna pick up, especially the VR arcades. They're all just fighting for whatever they can get their hands on. Well, Back to Onward. The Stone
on
Cold
track.
Killers versus Animal House. Stone Cold Killers put up a hell of a fight, as I read, but they went in as a big underdog, but came out of the match on top. That means that Animal House didn't do as good as you would expect it. They didn't lose as much MMR on points. I think they had a recent loss not long ago in a similar situation where they didn't lose a lot of points, although they were expected to win, but they just weren't up-ranked over who they fought. So let's get into these clips and set us up, ZP.
And so the first one we're going to see is going to be a Miracle Dev. He's going to come up these stairs. He's got a frag in his hand. Already at the pinnacle.
Oh, actually picked the guy up from the stairs. Whoever 4Q is, was he always on Animal House? Because I don't recognize the name.
No, he was not always on Animal House. At one point, I believe he played for a European team because I believe he's British.
Okay, because he's been I've been seeing him in a lot of highlights right now, and I was like, I don't remember that name, but I do now.
He has an affinity for grenades, so you will see, especially if things are clipped by Buxton, who loves himself some grenade plays. You will see a lot of clips from 4Q because he is a really great fragger. I mean, he is really good at getting those grenades on point. Case in point, here we go again. Here's 4Q. Here's the POV. Here comes the frag. We're on quarantine, and the long-range frag with a beautiful arc, and
sniped
boom.
with a grenade.
And exactly.
I have no words. I have no words.
And that was actually the start of what would have been a 1v3 for him. Unfortunately, though, later in the clip, he does get picked up, and that is going to be the end of that. So he does eventually get shut down. But the point of that clip was that long-range grenade snipe that he pulled off.
Too bad he couldn't just like hold the syringe above his head and get a self-res, right?
Yeah. Well, apparently the devs have patched that out, so no need to worry about that. And then here we are. We've got, I believe it's the very next round. Animal House going in for the cap. Silent Knight's actually got his tablet out. He's trying to cap it. 4Q runs around. He's kind of confused by the smoke. Silent Knight had run around the side of the building. He comes back around. Obviously, you see the trade come in. Two other members of Animal House are going to push in now. One goes for the revive. He's going to get shut down. The next going to get shut down. And a frag comes in from behind the last member and killing him. Now we just have Joe Mama here left, and he's going to find Enigma, and Enigma's going to shut that down as well, and Stone Cold Killer's going to take their point on this map.
That was a real nail biter. That would really almost broke their way.
Yeah, that's one of those rounds that it gets really hard for us as casters to follow because things just start popping off all at once, and you're trying to follow all these different shots and get to all these different parts of some of these larger maps, and it's hard to follow. Then we have a nice 4Q clutch here. He's going to 1v2 this one. Little trade coming out there at the start of the clip. 4Q, and I believe that's Will-O-the-Wisp in this clip as his backup.
Who's down now?
No, it was a Miracle Dev, but Miracle's going to get taken down. 4Q's going to try and hit him with one of his patented well-placed grenades, but it's not going to quite go as planned. But he's going to peek up. He's going to grab Steven here on this hard west pick. I mean, he's barely looking at a pixel there. And then he sees Will-O-the-Wisp as he rotates around. He pre-fires the rock just a little bit, and he grabs Stone Cold Killers, their third point, and gets a nice 1v2 clutch there at the end of the round. And here we go. We've seen plenty of grenade clips. We see the run and guns. Now it's time to see a little bit more methodical shooting. So here in this clip, we're actually going to see a little bit from Defilade on the Stone Cold Killer side. He's going to pick up a nice long-range headshot, and there it is, and you see it from the side of the guy who gets shot. So he's going to take a nice headshot there, and then he's going to pick up another snipe here, confirm that one, and that's going to be pretty much the end of the clip, and I believe that one is actually going to get them their win on Q1. Yeah,
it did indeed. So I misspoke earlier when I said 4Q. For some reason I thought he was on Animal House, but he's on Stone Cold Killers. But still, though, I think you're going to see a lot more of those teams going into next season starting to consolidate, because you're seeing a lot of the teams below the top four that they'll have maybe 1 or 2 star players. And if you can just go and grab the star player from the other teams and start consolidating, you'll actually be able to put some sort of pressure on Globo and beginners who, like, everyone on the team is a star player.
Yeah, and you have started to see that more. I mean, more and more roster changes have been happening over the last couple of seasons, especially since the LAN events have started happening. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean,
that's got to have got people excited.
It does. I mean, the very first one, I remember all of the players that were there and the developers that were there, and of course, the casting folks that were there, we were all just sitting there talking, and we were just like, this is going to be huge for the next season. I mean, as soon as people see this kind of response and this, the fact that there's actually like physical prizes now and there's events to be able to be had, and it's just going to drive the competition up just like skyrocket. And that's exactly what it did. I mean, season 5 definitely did not disappoint. Season 6 has been even more intense than season 5 was. I mean, it's really just getting ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, some teams are, looking for replacing certain members and trying to kind of fill that all-star lineup for each team, as you said. But then there's other teams that are just putting in the work, and everyone is just putting forth that grind to improve, and it's really worked out for them. I mean, look at Blaze. Blaze is not someone who's out there trying to recruit and snipe people from other teams. They're just using what they've got. They started small, they're putting in the work, and then they're just kind of blowing up now. I mean,
putting
they're
in
top
Globo
10.
hours, right?
That's it, putting in them Globo hours, as
The
we say
Globcam
here.
hours. Well, speaking of Blaze, though, they played against their fellow brothers, Phoenix. Battle between fiery brothers, as Buxton has written for us. Blaze definitely went in as the favorite here. Blaze has been winning a lot of matches lately, and they apparently didn't disappoint, especially on Downfall. So let's take a look at this one clip that we have from that match.
Yeah, and so this one is going to actually come from the second map in the series. It's a 3v2 scenario here, and we've got 2 members of Blaze kind of bunched up. They were on their attack rush, but then bam, a grenade, of course it is a grenade, comes out. And then you can see my wacky camera work here, as I couldn't believe that Rusher's got a 2-pick off a nice nade with the assist of that rooftop. I think if that roof had not been there, that grenade's arc might have actually allowed it to fly a little further and maybe kept them out of harm's way. But with that, it's going to pick up 2, and that's going to end that round for him.
One of our earlier clips, it was like that as well. Like it hit the roof and detonated just right up there and did an air blast for people. And it seemed like that one was on purpose. This last one seemed like it might have been accidental, but I think we might see more people aiming for roofs because that you don't have to get your timing just as right, and the roof is a much bigger target than where the people are.
Yeah, it was actually brought up in a recent cast for season 12 or week 12 about utilizing the roof and just like getting that frag like up to like the cornice of the roof, kind of like at the very peak. And then as long as you don't cook it, you got enough time for it to actually kind of just roll down the slope and then plop right down in front of the defender who might be on the other side waiting on a porch that otherwise would have been pretty inaccessible to you because you'd have to really expose yourself to get the angle on them. So there's been a lot of talk about roofs in the last couple of weeks due to some of these clips. So I completely agree with that statement.
Yeah. I think it's going to be pretty good. And we have one more week left, if I remember correctly. But before we get into that last week, let's check out this, set up this interview that you did.
Yeah, so this week, actually, just the other day, I grabbed Noman, who is the co-captain for Blaze, as we've talked about, new and upcoming team here in the Onward Master League, doing really well. And yeah, so I just grabbed him aside and just had some questions for him about, their journey so far in the Onward Master League and kind of what's next in their future. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that now and get some information from our boys over at Blaze. Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us. My name is Sleepy, and I am joined here today by Noman, the co-captain and PR representative for the Blaze Onward Master League team. Noman, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Sleepy. I appreciate it.
So, Noman, Blaze is obviously quickly becoming one of the newest rising stars in the Onward Master League. How is the team feeling about its newfound success?
I mean, how do you feel anything other than excitement? The guys are really happy with it. Obviously, they put in a lot of work to get here, and I think everybody's super stoked about it.
That's great. So without giving away any secrets, what do you think were keys to your team's success over the last, season and a half?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of different factors that goes into to being successful like this, but time, I think, is the biggest one. A lot of the guys have been putting in a ton of time this and last season, improving on their weaknesses, strengthening their strengths, playing a ton of competitive lobbies, playing scrims against good teams. Really just putting in the work, and I'm glad it's finally paying off.
Well, speaking of that time that they put into it, if you had to guess, what would you say is the average play time of your players on the Blaze squad?
Oh, I don't really have to guess. It's a discussion that happens pretty often in the Inferno Discord. I'd say about 400 to 500 hours would be the average between highest and lowest.
Okay, it's a lot of time commitment there, so pretty serious. Your team's success now has its drawbacks, and well, some might view it as drawbacks, but for example, this week you guys drew Globochem, the number one team for a long time. They did lose at OC5, but they just recently reclaimed that title back from the beginners with a matchup just recently. How are you guys feel about this matchup?
I think we feel pretty good about it. Honestly, we're just really excited to be here. Being only 2 and a little bit of change seasons old, and getting matched with the number one team in the league, or number one, number two teams in the league is a huge success for us. I mean, even without playing it, we're really just stoked to do it. But we've played against Globo a ton. Obviously, in competitive lobbies, they're always in there. We've played a lot of scrims. We've been able to take maps from them here and there. I think it's going to be a really good fight. I think we're all really looking forward to it. And I think the guys are pretty confident.
Well, that's good. The confidence is key, and I'm glad you guys are excited and definitely not shying away from the challenge of Globochem. And speaking more about challenges, what do you guys think is going to be your next challenge in the league, and who do you think might be your top competitor?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the biggest challenge is trying to make it to one of these really awesome LAN events that we see all the time. But the biggest competitor is a difficult question. Obviously, every team in the league has its unique strengths. Every team we've played so far has been a challenge that's unique. So I don't want to disrespect any team in the league. Obviously, everybody is great. But if I had to pick one right now, SA80 to my head, I'd say beginners would be the biggest challenge. Their play style is really slow. It's that EU-based gameplay. It'd be really difficult to find a way to match up with them, and I'm hoping we get a chance to do that in Season 7.
Great. Well, beginners, of course, a very tough opponent. They're number one in the EU, and like I said earlier, did take the Onward champion title away from Globochem at OC5 just last September. But before we wrap things up, can you tell me a little bit about this Inferno group that we've been hearing so much about from various things, from the Discord to casts and so on? Go into that a little bit for me.
Yeah, definitely. I can clear that mystery up. So Inferno was started by me and the captain of Blaze early on in Blaze's life cycle. Basically, we had too many people to make one team, so we spilled over and created a second brother team. And the point of that was to work together, share strats, help each other practice, scrimmed each other all the time, played in competitive lobbies. And it's sort of now grown into this community where we've got fans and reservists and even a third team that's sort of in the works. So it's really cool. Just a lot of cool people hanging out, talking about Onward, playing other games. It's just a lot of fun with those guys.
Well, that sounds awesome. I mean, it sounds like you guys are including not only newer members of the community, but also outside people from outside the community as well. So that's a big kudos to you guys for kind of bringing everyone in and kind of creating this family environment, which we all know Onward already has quite a big reputation of having, but, to do it on even more focused level is pretty great. So as we wrap things up, you guys obviously are newer to the league, not necessarily newer players per se, but what advice would you have for any new players who might be entering the league within the next season, or maybe just interested in competitive Onward play?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, and I like to use a quote from a book I read when I was a little bit younger, is you only get smarter by playing a smarter opponent. You got to put yourself out there. I mean, once you're done getting used to the mechanics and playing in public lobbies, it's best if you jump into competitive lobbies as quickly as you can, learn from the players there, ask for tips. Obviously, if you're not losing, you're not learning. So challenge yourself and spend a lot of time in it. I think anybody can do it. It's very easy.
If you're not losing, you're not learning. That just became my favorite clip, Noman. And that's actually going to be it for us. I want to, of course, thank our friend Noman here for coming out and giving us his info. And we'll send things back to the guys in the studio to wrap up the rest of the VR Respawn recap. Thanks, everybody.
Very well done. I enjoyed that very much. Also like that statement there where if you're not losing, you're not learning. Keep going with that one.
Yeah, I thought it was great too. I mean, when he said it, just instantly in my head, I was like, "Oh, that's so good!" Actually, that's a really good one. So
the mind of a pro, man.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into how the standings changed up at the end of week 11. Got a Globochem holding on to the top. This is the NA League, our division, with Danglers in number 2. So that's got to make you happy, right? SMC
That's
Tactical, right. Pulling up the rear, not by too far. I think they're very close. And then G-Men in 4. Animal House still pulling up the rear with Blaze hot on their heels. Pun definitely not intended, but I'm going to take it. I'm going to take what I get.
Take it. It's a freebie. It's there.
Over in the EU, we got the beginners as expected on top with Boss Fight number 2, also not unexpected. Lemon Squad in 3 and Silent Purge in 4, all pretty much shaping out the way that we expected even from the previous season. So not a lot of shakeups. With the French Onward Union, or the new guys on the block moving their way up with some of the interesting plays that we saw last week. Didn't get a lot of information this week about them playing. I'm sure they played more games, but I think they just none of it was streamed, so we didn't get to see it.
Yeah, no, the European games typically don't get cast as much as most of our casting field right now is based in the US. Buxton is one of the few guys in the EU right now who are casting for us on the Onward Master League channels. So it's hard for us to be able to get that coverage. I've been trying to pick up some myself on the weekend games.
Casting?
Radar and Viper have stepped back a little. They did do a cast this last week, but it was an interesting one, to say the least. You'll have to check that one out on your own time. That's definitely not one that we need to pull clips from, though, because trust me, there were plenty of clips pulled, but they weren't for the same reasons you might think. So they did come back. No,
that's too bad. Those guys are great.
No, they are. They are great, but they wanted to do and have a little bit more fun with one. So they actually did a live in the same room cast. So they were actually both sitting at the same desk in the same room watching and casting, and things got a little out of hand in the only way that Viper and Radar had know how. But overall, it was a very entertaining cast. It just got a little out of hand. But I still love those guys to death.
Staying focused is the hard part. You gotta remember, it's about the players and about the game, and it's very hard, especially if you have somebody that you like joking around with, to stay focused. We see that a lot, and I'm just like, stay on the game. You can, after the game is over and you announced everything, then you can goof. Or if you're stalling, it's totally easy to goof because there's nothing else to do. Yeah. All right, so we have the final matches for this last week before we get into the finals. This is the list: Global Chem versus Blaze. We don't expect there to be much of an upset there. What is this name? Equipe Virtual. Say it. Go ahead.
Equipe Virtuel Francophone. So it's basically...
Is that the guys from ProTube?
Team Virtual France.
That's my assumption, is that they were just ProTube since they're Virtual France. But against Silent Purge, I expect Silent Purge to take that without too much trouble. Global Chem versus you guys. I know you told me you were really excited about that match. But hey, if you're not losing, you're not learning.
That's it. If we're not losing, we're not learning. But you know what? This time we're gonna make them bleed. We're trying to win this one.
Take them on their best map.
We can learn later. We're gonna win this one. Okay, we want it bad. We've really won it. We've come close a few times. We've taken a map from them here and there, but we've never beat them. It's our time to shine. We really want to beat them, but you know what? They're always great fun to play, and they're always a great game. So I think no matter what happens.
I was just thinking, maybe that's why some people have been losing on their best map, because they don't practice it expecting you to ban it.
Yeah, I mean,
we've been trying to figure out why people are losing on their best map. We have no idea.
Yeah, we don't know if it's complacency. We don't know what it is. But I personally think it's smartest to just ban the best map that the enemy team is just, quote unquote godlike on. I mean, why try and put up the fight on something that they've practiced and they have down? I mean, yes, it would be great to be able to say we took Global Chem on their best map, or we took SMC on Cargo, because SMC are cargo monsters, basically. So, I mean, yeah, of course, it's great to have those bragging rights. Like, yeah, we beat this team. They're the best on this map, and we beat them there. So, I mean, yeah, of course that's there. But to me, it's just smarter planning to just get rid of it, get it off the table, make them play something they're not as comfortable with. And hopefully you still have something in your arsenal that they don't ban against you.
Well, the very next day, you're gonna go up against the Tactical Illuminati. That'll be one you can take, right?
Yeah. I mean, we don't typically like to say we can or can't take anything, but Tactical Illuminati is a newer team, so it's a bit of a stretched matchup there. But we're expecting them to put up a good fight, and it should be an exciting game nonetheless. But yeah, we try not to really get too overconfident anymore, because we've had that bite us in the butt.
That is exactly how you get bit. Your body and your mind more or less gives out if it thinks it's already going to win.
Yeah, and it's happened to us a few times. It happened to us against SMC. We were really confident in one of the matchups we had versus them. They ended up coming in and beating us pretty badly. So we've kind of learned our lesson about just immediately thinking we've got something wrapped up. So we think it'll be a good game.
All right. And then at the end of that list, as you can see, it's G-Men versus Magnificent. No major predictions there, but I think G-Men may end up pulling that one off. I don't think there's going to be a lot of shakeups in the last week, especially since everybody's going to be gearing up for the finals. That's right. The Onward Virtual Reality Master League Winter Championships. Now, this is going to be some exciting matchups, right? A lot of complicated ways in order to get there. I believe you actually know how this plays out.
Yeah, so basically what's going to happen is after this week is over, that's the end of the regular season week. And then starting on December 1st, the weekend of December 1st, you can see the 2 orange dates there, is the wild card at open qualifiers. And now what that is, that's going to be teams ranked 8th through... I'm actually not sure on the bottom cutoff, but I think it's 8th through the bottom, maybe. Anyway, don't quote me on that, but from 8th place down are going to play in kind of a punch-out, knockdown, drag-out style event. It's usually all day or all of 2 days. It's very long days for these teams. They have to play quite a long time, quite a lot of matches, so it's definitely an endurance test, and that typically does tend to weed out some of the stronger teams from the weaker teams, because you do have to be prepped for those endurance tests, especially if you want to start playing in these LAN events, because sometimes if you have to fight your way out of the loser's bracket, it's a long journey back into that finals game, and sometimes you're going to have to play them back-to-back, so it is tough. And then you'll see down on the weekend of the 8th of December in the light blue color, it's going to be the group stages, and I believe that is going to be where ranks 1 through 7, plus the winners of the wild card, we'll duke it out in a little tournament as well. And then the finals from that, I guess the top 4 from that are going to go to the quarterfinals on the 15th. And I believe the 16th will be the finals game. So yeah, and then hopefully by the end of December 16th, just before Christmas, someone will have a nice present under their tree of being the Onward Season 6 Winter Championship champions, and they will have those bragging rights until the end of Season 7 or until the next LAN event when someone says, hey, we're going to take down the top dogs.
Indeed. And what's the prize this year? Do you remember?
I honestly do not think that prizes have been announced. I was actually in the Discord asking that myself the other day. Typically, we do see contributions from ProTube VR as well as VR cover. However, I haven't heard if there's any sort of alternate prizes in there as well. But typically, we do see 2 prizes from that. Usually, you'll get a custom ProTube or MagTube with your team's logo, and of course, you know, the season and event that you won in the buttstock. It's very nice. If you go to ProTube VR's Twitter page, you can actually see what they've done for the Pavlov League recently for their championships. They do really great work at customizing those championship ProTubes to have your team's logo or your specific player name on it. So it's really cool.
I need to get back in touch with those guys. Alfredo and Bro just sort of faded away, and they were the sources of information of what was going on in their league, so we could cover it. So I know they don't watch this show probably. You know, you guys kind of butt heads a little bit, the Onward and Pavlov guys. So we'll find out if they'll get more coverage, but it is completely up to them. This is a community project. So speaking of that, that's right, nobody is stopping us. We're still going. We're several episodes in right now. Sleepy, Nightfire, Buxton, all jumping in, and even picking up a new guy who you did your interview with. Is that Nomi? Is that how you say his name?
Noman.
That's right, Noman is actually going to start joining us and doing stuff with us as well. Remember, this is a group project, so please tweet us your clips. Please let us know what matches you want to see. Anybody that you have any kind of information, somebody you think we want to interview, some questions you have about stuff, send it to us. Jump on in. If you want to take part in the show, you want to do graphics, you want to write for the show, you want to jump in and do like an interview, let us know, man. We're all doing this together. We're even reaching out to the different teams, any team that's in the league, that if you want to do like a little video, a little PSA, a commercial, recruiting video, whatever it is, you put it together, give it 30 seconds, make it as cute as you want, overproduce it if you want to, and send it our way, and we'll have it in the very next episode of the show. Anything else, Sleepy?
Nope, just of course, thanks everybody for watching, and we hope to see you again next week, where we kind of give you the recap of the very last and final week of the regular season here on Onward VRML League.
Yeah, well, we'll see you next time, guys.